The member for Monash.
Well, I just want to say before I start, Deputy Speaker, that to be in the Parliament in the moment when Yusuf Shaya's memories were brought to the table by the member for Greenway is a marvellous moment to be here. It doesn't happen very often when somebody gives an address to the Parliament like you have just given. Congratulations, and I know it must be heartbreaking for your family, but this is just the sort of man that makes this nation what it is. On Saturday afternoon on the 1st of May, I had the privilege of attending the Mayday Women's Forum held in Toora. I was rather humbled and honoured to be actually even invited as a male and a local member. I'd been invited to be a witness and listen to the stories of 11 impressive women from in and around Toora share their personal stories, participate in the subsequent discussions and take what I heard back to this Parliament, which I'm doing today. And I acknowledge two of the organisers that are here with us, Sue Plowright and Rosemary Brooks, who are both here in the chamber tonight. Toora is a small farming village in my electorate whose main industry is dairy farming. It's located at the top of Corner Inlet opposite Wilsons Promontory National Park. It's a stunning part of the world, Deputy Speaker. With a population of around 680, you might understand that I expected around 20 participants. What a surprise when I walked into the hall and there were 70 women, a couple of men there. There had been a shift. This community was galvanised. Several themes and issues emerged from the forum, but overwhelmingly, homelessness and family violence were front and centre. The 11 presenters each shared their own powerful and personal stories as an example. As an example, an older woman with no superannuation and no home of her own, a young woman, a tradie, a mechanic who had to fight against entrenched antagonism by many of the men around her, but who was fortunately supported by her employer to continue as a diesel mechanic. A dedicated teacher who missed out on a promotion because she sought to work less than full-time hours to work around the needs of a young family. Each of the presenters shone a light on the myriad of insidious aspects of disrespect and discrimination against women. However, the last presenter spoke on behalf of women that she works with who have shared their experience of family violence. Her community health helps people in the district with the food bank, referrals to services, food vouchers and advocacy for people at risk of homelessness. Homelessness, family violence, mental health crises and food insecurity were all rampant in her community, made even worse by the pandemic. In what became a moment of reckoning, which stopped us all in our tracks, she asked us, as forum participants, to imagine we were in a relationship with a partner that withheld the medications from you, sells your possessions without permission, hurts or kills your pets, monitors all your everyday activities, including the clothes you wear, who you talk to, or if you're even allowed to go out at all, controls all your money from shopping to paying bills, or abuses or hurts you in front of your children. The presenter then went on to ask the attendees a series of questions, none of which I've ever considered from a woman's perspective. I'd never put myself in a woman's shoes. We were then asked to reflect on matters we need to consider if we were a woman at risk of or experiencing family violence. Have you learned how to delete your search history when looking for help online? Have you considered using a code language that the person using violence against you will not know? Have you used this at the hairdresser or the chemist? Have you need to take photos of bruises or injuries, given them to a trusted friend before deleting them? Have you need to ensure you always have petrol in your car and a spare set of keys in case you need to leave quickly? Where is your rental agreement, your property deeds, your birth certificate? Can you grab them in a hurry? Does your doctor have contact numbers for your friends and the kids' school in case you get really hurt next time? And this last question, have you taught your children the warning signs? Do they know a safe place to hide? Do they know how to call the police? Do they know your address should the worst happen? I ask this question soberly and with no accusation or judgment. How have we as a society come to this? How have we let this happen? Violence against a partner affects all members of a family. Put simply, it occurs when one person exerts power over another in a relationship or family situation. To any victims listening to me now, family violence is not your fault. You are not responsible for the violent behaviour of others or those around you, not ever. You don't ask for it. It's never an appropriate response. It's never an appropriate response. Although men may experience family violence, it's far more likely in Australia that women, non-binary or gender-diverse people will be in a relationship of violence or abuse. People with all sorts of backgrounds, cultures, circumstances, experience violence and abuse at home. The focus of the Mayday Forum was rural women's safety, justice, opportunity, achievements and the role of their role in rural communities. The organisers asked me to present the following to the Parliament. The forum followed the March for Justice on May the 15th, and they have asked me to convey this to the Parliament. We call on you as a democratic lawmakers and policy settlers to exercise your representative responsibility to act in particular on the following: providing in-place affordable and safe emergency accommodation, temporary housing and long-term homes with supports, mental health, etc., through extending existing centralised services to include comprehensive in-person mobile and outreach services and creative and better use of existing buildings as a priority. Recognise, prioritise and work through community-led enabling initiatives that draw on local knowledge, networks and know-how. Recognise that every small rural town and district is distinct, has different circumstances, cultures, landscapes, assets and needs. Promote neighbourliness and community cohesion. Address through formal and informal education the lack of respect and acknowledgement of women's skill and productivity that is endemic in Australia. But the one message summed it all up: the rural context of dispersed small towns, locales and farms is particularly important and is summed up by this one plea: secure long-term funding for community houses in every rural town. This Mayday Forum and my subsequent engagement with the presenters and organisers has been a turning point, a fork in the road for me. Since engaging on issues directly around the treatment of women in this country, I have been approached by numerous people, both men and women, who are also pleading with me to help make a difference, a meaningful difference, not just talk and platitudes. Our history of white settlement talks of the awful history of misogyny from our very beginnings that have hovered like a bat over our national being, an underlying theme that has infected the generations. We as a people have lived in a state of denial of society's generational habits, then allowed them to penetrate every institution of our creation across every state, territory and region. This lack of respect for a partner manifests itself in many ways, where power and manipulation and outright intention to control another is enacted. More often than not, Deputy Speaker, this is a learned behaviour which arises from observed experience in any given setting. It is respect we have lost, Deputy Speaker. Respect to honour one another as a first response, not one that has to be learned, but one expected as a fundamental part of our cultural norm. I'd like to finish up on a rare and uplifting note. One of the families I heard about as a result of the forum was a mum and her 4 sons who had escaped family violence. At the time, the family was looking at the prospect of being wrenched from their close-knit community networks, becoming homeless, including very supportive school community that supported the boys, and uprooted to a town 40 kilometres away. Long story short, Deputy Speaker, the community drew on its own networks and social capital, and a home was miraculously found for this family, a small glimmer of hope in what was otherwise a very desperate and dire picture of life for so many people in our society. Deputy Speaker, funding won't fix this. It's not money that's going to fix this. Our society has to fix this. We have to own the problems, and once we've owned the problems, work out ways to fix them. Whatever those ways are, what we're currently doing is not working. But but we can work together as a nation for a better outcome.